This small-sized mahogany desk is early Victorian, and it was made for use on board ship. It's what we would call a cabin desk, a piece of cabin furniture. Well, let's have a closer look at it. So we'll put the laptop away in the drawer. Now, how do we know that it was made for use on board ship? Well, partly its size. Of course, unless you were a very senior officer, you would be quite restricted in space that you would have in your cabin. Space would be at a premium. So you wouldn't want a desk which is too large. It's got to be small enough to fit in there and fit in with your bed, perhaps a chest of drawers, a washstand, etc., etc. But of course, it might not have been used just by a naval officer. Many people hired an empty cabin on board an East Indiaman or other ship for their travel to India or, say, Australia, and it could take them 6 months. And because the cabin was empty, they had to furnish it themselves. They would get a cabin fitter in perhaps to do that, and they might have a desk like this, they might have a bed, a chest of drawers, a washstand, etc., etc. But space would be at a premium. Space on board ship was very valuable because, of course, any space that was being used by a cabin was space that you couldn't load up with goods to sell either in India or to bring back to England to make your profit on. So size was important. Now, another indicator is that it's got these wonderful rounded skeletal campaign handles. So that's a quick indicator that it might be a piece of travel furniture. But of course, it's not made to come apart. So that goes against it. But on shipboard furniture, it wasn't all made to come apart. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. Now, a piece this small is going to be quite easy to move between two people. And in fact, probably easier to move as one piece than if it broke down into 3 pieces like a normal pedestal desk. Another indicator is this gallery all the way around the top. That's going to stop things sliding off in stormy weather, inclement weather, which is going to be very practical for you. To the middle, we've got a sloped area which is on a ratchet, which allows you to set it at 2 angles. There's the lowest, there's the next. It's got a lovely green inset lever to the top with gilt tooling. Now, it looks like it could well be original, this. If not, it's certainly been on there a very long time. It's got some lovely wear to it, with these marks coming from the frame of the central board behind it as the timber has moved a little bit over time. So those are good indicators of its originality. Let's have a closer look at one of the drawers. Now, this one has got dividers to it, and you can see those. There's one divider missing. It would have had another longer one going along here. You can see that shadow mark, and also there's a groove there where it would have fitted. But we can also see the quality. We can see this rounded moulding set in, which of course is a very English thing to do on drawers. And you can see these super dovetails. And while we're here, there's a closer look at that great handle. Now, how do we date it? Well, we've had a similar desk, although slightly bigger, by a company called Ramsey & Co., who had on their label cabin fitters, and they were in Poplar, London. But they were early 19th century, earlier than this. And although it's very similar in style, there are a few indicators that it's a little bit later. The rounded turned foot, that looks a little bit later to me. These feet, incidentally, are also fixed. They're not made to come apart like you might expect on a campaign chest. But the real indicator is this lock to the central drawer, which is the only one which is marked. It's probably a little bit stronger than the rest of the locks, and it's stamped VR for Victoria Regina. So that tells us immediately it's Victorian. The rest of the attributes would point to it being round about 1840 in date. So it's quite a useful piece of furniture. You could use it in an office as your desk, but you can also use it, say, in a bedroom as a dressing table if you wanted. It's a lovely size. Mahogany, around about 1840 in date. And a great bit of ship's furniture or cabin furniture.